Hey everyone, welcome to your daily update for BTC and SOL. It's been an interesting weekend. We've had a bit of movement up and down. The outcome from the weekend, though, is that it's left a lot of traders basically confused. So, as you can see, on the liquidity chart here, you've got as many positions open on the 1 day to the top side as you do to the bottom side, and that's not really what you want when you're going into some bigger closes, particularly like weekly closes, because there's definitely incentive growing for some kind of big dump and then big pump, or vice versa. And it is often hard to try and figure out which way it's going to go first when there is incentive equal in both directions. So looking at the 1 day, a revisit down to 108 on BTC would make perfect sense, and anything up to sort of like that 112, and we've got structure in place that allows for that after close, or maybe even before, because there is a bit of time to go until daily close. If we look at SOL, revisiting just under that 200 mark, so sort of like 197, 198 would make sense, and then pushing back up to 208. And there's things that make sense about doing that, like we didn't retest the daily trend yet, and that would be up around 207, 208. And obviously there'll be the liquidity that has formed from the weekend move up. So when they went from, say, the 200s and they pumped up to about 205, 206 before they rejected off the hourly, that got a lot of people longing and chasing those longs. So a lot of those people will think that their stop losses and their liquidation levels are safe under the previous low, and that means that that 197, 198 area is probably a juicy target for larger players to open their positions. So let's have a look at the 7 day. 7 day is also quite even. So yeah, all signs are brewing for a sweep and a pump, or a sweep to the upside and a dump. So the levels here are still pretty much the same, apart from they're starting to build liquidity down around that 106 area on BTC, and also sort of around that 114 and upwards, so maybe up to 116. But you probably want to get a bit more liquidity there first. Although if the price starts going up, people will just keep adding to their shorts, and that stuff will actually appear automatically. With SOL, that would mean sort of diving down to about 190. And we know we've got big structure down around that 190, 189 area, and we've got break retests to do and all that kind of thing. So there's multiple structural reasons to go down there. And then you've got two quite clear liquidity clusters, where the first one would be sort of up to 208, and that makes sense. Then we've got a little gap, and then we could head up into those sort of 215s or higher if we wanted to take out the entire top side. So we've got the 30-day. So 30-day liquidity is starting to balance out on SOL, a little bit more available to the downside, so that might mean that they go down first before up, or maybe they go to the 208 and then they do the bigger dive and then they go up. It is pretty hard to tell when the liquidity is getting balanced like this. Although the 30-day is not balanced on BTC, so that it sort of does imply that 113, 114 area would be a pretty obvious target to the upside, and then maybe it dumps down. Looking at the 30-day liquidity, it's really those positions down around that 105, 106 area that would want to get taken. And there's not really much down below that at this stage, but yeah, as we know, when price go down, people buy dips, and when dips get bought, dips keep dipping. So it's liquidity just comes, and that's where you never want to get caught buying the dip of the dip of the dip of the dip of the dip forever. So let's have a look at this, what they've done over the weekend. So as you can see, there's a bit of fun and games over the weekend. So they've been building that liquidity top and bottom side on BTC, and arguably I would say BTC really has not made its move yet. There's all that structural relevance for it to come down and test all these areas sort of around 109, 108, which we'll see on the charts later. And as you can see, they're building that liquidity to the top side as well. So the thing about going and hitting the 114 area, which is already a target in play, as is 116, as is 117, they're all targets in play, but there's just got these big gaps, which makes it inefficient really to push price up, because the best thing, if you watch the video I put out yesterday, just in response to a question that was asked online about liquidity, gaps like these here between 113, 113 flat and 113,800, they're inefficient because the best way to get price to move through these is to trigger someone's stop losses or liquidations, and then those market orders will shuffle the price up in the order books. But so if we want them to come up here and take the 114 area, what we want to see is liquidity start to actually form in this gap. And then once liquidity matches structure will play out. So, but that's BTC, and it's got everything up higher than that. So, and as you can see, all the way down to 106 is there. So I think once the gaps get filled, it'll be ready to move. SOL had a bit of a move. So it took the topside liquidity, and then all the people that had been banking on those longs, who didn't take their TPs, well, they got round tripped. So I posted a comment today about trading is about getting greedy entries and conservative profits. So these levels, like if you're in the Discord, I mentioned I was taking TPs at 202, which was the first daily level, and then we had 204, which was which was 204.5, which was a long target based on a fib trade that was 94% probability of playing out, and then we had an hourly range trend creation that was needing to happen, and that was up about 205. So there was another TP there which I got while I was asleep, and then of course, hey, we dump. So you just got to make sure you're taking profits into these resistances. You don't hold for the greediest profit, because if you did, you would have been aiming for that trend retest and you would have got reversed into. So take profits at conservative places on the way up and try to get the greediest entries you can, and then all you have to do is repeat, and you'll make money. But don't just aim for the red bars, which I might sound like a broken record, but red bars do not always get taken. So don't just try to TP into the red bar. You might have ended up missing out on all of this profit, and you could have got a new entry down here and be doing it again. So let's have a look at these charts. So okay, so it's a lot of closes today and some really mixed signals. So SOLBTC, it's pretty much forming into a wedge. We've got retests that need to happen to the downside, and they probably will happen. So if we were to close exactly like this today, we've got a hold level here, which we ran into yesterday. We've come and swept a little bit off the top side of the interior trend, and we started from the wrong side of the trend. So structurally, it makes sense for this to push down to this 179.33 area. However, and this is where things get a bit mixed, if it can hold this price point for the next 3 hours, it could open above the trend, and it could actually then have another bounce, because we still have this untested hold level up here, and all of these trends are in the way. And effectively what's happening is these trends to the downside, these support trends, they're trying to test these hold levels. And before this trend here even got created, what's happening is they're trying to get back up here to do a retest of this. Now this trend here at the 18261 area has become a target for the trend that got created to the bottom. But if we open and bounce again, then it's still going to be trying to push through to this untested one up here. So it's a real mixed signal as to whether this thing actually has one more push up, or whether it's just going to break down from here. But it's in a real tight spot as to whether it could go up or down. In my opinion, it actually needs to do both. It needs to come down and do a retest anyway, because you've got untested levels to the downside that have been hard closed. And of course, the trends are going to want to push up. So it is actually relatively bullish for it to stay above a trend, do a retest, and then push up, because where you actually start the candle's the most important thing. So that's how that's looking. Now the weekly one is giving us kind of the opposite signal, and what it's saying is I want to open my new candle on the underside of the range trend. So this can still give a push up, because it can open on the wrong side of the trend, push up to retest the trend, or it can just do a flat fall and just come down to these 16799 areas, bounce on those, and then come back up to do the trend, which would be sort of like a more vicious move in the market. There'd be more violence. There'd be a real weak SOL, and then there'd be a real strong SOL, as it dumps down and then pumps back up again. But either way, unless the price was to, or unless the strength, I should say, moves up above about that 184, 185 area, then it's going to be opening on the wrong side of the trend, and either it's going to be a temporary push up, maybe a fake move Monday, and then the push down into the bigger reversal is what that's saying on the weekly. So let's have a look at our strength assets. So these have just sort of been pretty much in limbo, I think, on the daily. Yeah, so they've just been basically in limbo on the daily. Not too much is changing with this. There is probably a support trend moving, and we may then get a bounce off that support trend. This level up here at 65.46 is untested, as is the backside here at 65.32. So the real question is, why have we not gone up and hit these yet? We've certainly broken enough trends to be moving up and testing these. What we might see, though, just looking at this, is we might see a hold level created to the downside. So there's a little bit of confluence there for, if we do close below 65.01, then we could get a hold level rejection back down to the trend. So when this is rejecting, that means that things like SOL are going up, and BTC is going up. So if we get that rejection back down to this trend that it seems to be avoiding at the moment, around 64.76, that could be our little false move Monday, and then the bounce of the trend pushes back up to retest these upper levels, backside and frontside hold levels around that 65.32 or 65.46, and that could be our continuation dump into the week. So that's sort of what that's showing, but it is really close, and it could shift up just a little bit and then not create that hold level. So yeah, it's also giving out mixed signals, but so far these mixed signals indicate we're probably going to get some kind of move tomorrow, and then it's initially going to kick off with some kind of fake action and then give us the real continuation after that. So it's totals, and so totals are not, they're not shifting the trend in any way today. They're opening above it as long as they open here, which once again that kind of says it could give us that bounce, but we've fallen back underneath this break level here at 346.5. So yeah, we could get a bounce off opening above the trends, push up through that break level, and then end up pushing back down again. So also that would mean confluence with maybe an upwards move, and followed by a real genuine pullback. And if it doesn't hard close the trend, it's not a broken trend, so it's almost like it could have that push, but it'd have a bungee cord attached to it and something that's going to be trying to pull it back down. So Let's have a look and see what else we got going on here. And our weekly is below the range trend, above the support trend, and it hasn't tested the hold level. So again, that sort of indicates that the next one could open, it could push up, it hasn't actually lost the range trend either because it's closing a accumulation candle. So yeah, really this could push up, hit either the hold or the backside of the range trend, and then push back down, and that would give us that false sort of Monday move and then dip. And we do have this level down here that really needs to be retested at 3.23. Ideally, you want to see it retested from above trend because then it's just a dive and then we can go up, and that would be the perfect scenario for a final flush and then a big push to the upside. But yeah, I think you will get some action in the next day or two, probably between these two levels, and whichever way it goes first will be the false, and then there'll be the bigger move, and then the recovery, particularly if it starts from up here and dives this trend, then the recovery should be quite good. Right, so with BTC, and BTC looks like it's going to create a hold level, assuming it closes over 110.624, and it will be above the trend, and we may get a retest of the broken interior. So this could mean we bounce off either the trend or the hold level and push up here to test the break level in that 112 area. We could push up to this 112.600 level, which is it'll be a lower time frame origin level in there. Actually, there'll be a lower time frame origin level in that 112, 124 as well. And maybe we come back up here to 113. Pretty much everything else up there on the daily's been retested, so we could just reject off the backside of the trend, do a trend retest, or we could push through that and then come back down again. But one way or another, this thing will bounce, and then it's going to run into resistances on the way up. So if you've got a long open and you're trading on the daily time frame, then you're going to want to be just taking small amounts of profits off it at these levels as it goes up. And it really needs one more day in accumulation to actually break this. And we are getting there because from a cycle trend perspective, if you include the interior break of trend that happened with this candle down here, we're basically at stage 5 now. So I would expect us to see some kind of sweep of liquidity and then a move and a proper full reversal to the upside. So it's getting close. We've been waiting for this for a while. Let's have a look at the 2-day. Okay. So the 2-day has bounced off the range trend, so that's good. It's traveling back up. It's going to run into the backside of the not broken support trend. It's going to run into another range trend, and it has got a hold level up here at 114.2. So this is trying to get to that 114.2, and all of these things that are in between are slowing it down. So if we do get some kind of pump from the underside of all these resistances and we push up to that hold level, that could initiate then a proper more like of a retracement move to the downside. So I've got TP sitting basically there in 116 and 119 and 117 point something, but I would I would say that this is starting from the wrong side of resistance. It has got a target, and if we do get a false push up into that, then certainly be taking some profits as it goes. And this has got 2 days to close, but it's sort of got the same kind of confluent levels around that 112.9. Yeah, and right up to maybe 119, but don't know if that's going there. Okay. So the 5-day close today, this is kind of super doji. the important levels really on the 5-day would be retesting the broken range trend all the way up here at around 118, 119. We've already tested the hold level there at 116 and had a rejection off that, so that's probably not too relevant anymore on this time frame. But how this candle closes is quite important, because if it actually closes blue, then we get another interior forming, which is here. And we could just bounce straight off that and head up to that 112,600. We still need a hard close up inside here if we actually want to regain this range trend. And if we do regain that range trend, then it will travel up to that next one most likely. So yeah, we could get some kind of move in that, but at this stage it's a 5-day candle. It'll have a lot of time, and it's gonna, if it tries to get up into here, it's going to be doing it from the wrong side of the range trend. So it's also possible that it just closes up slightly, creates a yellow candle, comes up, rejects off the backside of the trend again, and then comes down, and that would then target those 108 areas. So this is a actual broken range too. So this 107,400 level, this won't hold anymore. It's already been hit. It's break level, and versus the upside break level, which is all the way up here at all-time high, which has not been hit yet. So if this doesn't create an accumulation range, then this 107,400 doesn't turn into an origin level. If it doesn't turn into an origin level, it can't support the price. So it looks pretty much like, yeah, it really does look like it's pretty much a failure. Now these levels down here at 102, 103, this was origin creation. So break levels got hit, created accumulation, and then allowed the price to go up. So really the levels between 107 and 103 on the 5-day are probably not going to really offer any real major support unless we can actually get at least 10 days in accumulation from the strike of this break level, which clearly it's failing to do. So, all right, 1 week. So the 1 week's going to create another interior trend, assuming it closes yellow, but it's going to also close above support. So you're going to end up with resistance at 112 and weekly support around 109s, 109, 110, or some of the deeper support that it's actually bouncing off now, which is about 108. This is looking relatively like what I am expecting to see. I actually think we'll get those 108 levels tagged, and I think we might get those 112, 113 levels tagged. There is the possibility we go up first because we might close just over this 110,647 break level. So we could bounce from the break, test the trend, even push through the trend. And if we do, that next resistance on the weekly is about 114. So we could bounce off the 110, head to the 114, and then push back again. But yeah, this is getting really kind of jammed in there. And what we are starting to see is the second weekly interior downtrend, which is not good. You don't really want these downtrends to start to play out and compound. Okay, so the 10 days going to, if it closes blue like this in distribution, it's going to shift the trend. So you can see how mixed these signals are. So this is probably the cleanest looking chart that exists for BTC. So we shift this trend to the underside. It has confluence with that 108,350 level, which is a retest of the weekly breakout, which is one of those weekly support levels, and then we can move up to test the upside here. So yeah, this is looking pretty clean for a bounce of the trend and then target something to the upside. Yeah, so although I think we might go lower, it would be worth starting to ladder back into low leverage or spot positions around that 108, 350 again. Even if I need to be TPing at sort of 112, 600s to 114 to 116, 117, and then 119, 120. I don't think, I don't think that's too bad a place to start buying back in, even though we potentially will go lower. So, and the other level I'd just be watching on this is a retest of that 106 level, which would be a comfortable dive of the trend. So, all right. Just when you think charts couldn't get any clearer, this one's going to be clearer. So we're going to introduce a interior today, which we were there, we went there, and now we come here. Okay, so the 25-day is going to create a new hold level at 117.8. It's got a retest required here at 106.4, which it hasn't done yet, and it's going to have this new support trend, and it's going to be under these resistance trends. So all of these levels have got really good confluence, like 113s or whatever that would be early in the week, say 112s to 113s, 114s, 117s, and support in the 109.8, the 108.3s, and then the 106s. So these are your buy levels down here, and these are your TP levels. And we're going to get a move. It's just, does it fake us first? And this is the thing, is like when you got all these levels, you can move between them like a bit of a pinball game. You could go here first, then here, then here, then here, then here. Like this is how price can play out through all these different levels, and you don't really know which way it's going to go first, but those levels are important, and they're going to be reversal levels. So keep an eye on those. Okay, and 50 days not really telling us too much. We've got this 96 level down here. Backside trend retest would be about 117. We've bounced off the backside hold level. So this is also something a bit more longer term that you'd have to keep an eye on, which is if we travel here, we could come all the way back down to here. So that is possible. Certainly if we get the opportunity to buy BTC in the 90s, then it's particularly if we haven't already hit 120 or higher, then it's definitely worthwhile. We're going to get another interior trend today, which is going to be there, and the candle will probably open on the wrong side of it. So if we move up, hit the back side of the new trend, and then maybe push down, very possible. And it's really unlikely it'll be a straight line, right? But do be careful with buying in those 100, 108 sort of areas. Don't put everything into it, because you might find that you do get the opportunity to buy down here in the 90s. So, and 125-day is just basically telling us nothing. At some point, this will come back and revisit this trend if it doesn't create a new uptrend in the meantime. If it does revisit it, it's down there at 82. We know that exists as a target, but it's probably not worth thinking about in the short term. And the 5-week actually hasn't completed its fib trade yet, so this is moving back to 115.6. It may have just been waiting for the candle close so that it can do it from the other side, and then once it runs into resistance, and the resistance on this time frame is basically going to be that 115 to 117, 118 area, the trends again. And yeah, unfortunately the support for this time frame is all the way down here at that 96 again. So yeah, you could see it. And the 7-week, wow, I wouldn't pay too much attention to the 7 week at the moment, other than we're going to move our interior trend, which is going to move over to here. Probably going to open on or just on the wrong side of the trend. It could, backside's going to kick in at about 114. Support's going to be down there at about 108. So you might get a bit of a move between these two, and then either more up and more down due to the other time frames. All right, let's have a look at SOL. Okay, SOL is pretending to be really bullish, but it actually is quite bullish. So I mentioned at the start we didn't retest that interior trend, and it looks like we might actually be going to do that now. So this is our shifted interior that was created. Actually, sorry, it was a new interior that was created a couple of days ago. And when we moved the support trend to the underside, we created this hold. But we still had this fib trade that needed to play out. So we were still in this long, which was taking us to this 204.5. And I think I've done a video on fib trades, and there's different categories of fib trades, but this is a medium risk. Right? So it's a whole candle which has a full completed range afterwards. And this is a high risk because it's a whole candle that only has a single candle, and a single candle is consolidation, it's not a range. So there's no actual daily range here, and there's no actual daily range here, and yet there was a daily range here. So people probably thought I was a little bit crazy because I was longing straight up into this resistance, and it's trust me, it's not usually a good idea to long into resistance. But in this case, the support was a higher probability of playing out than what the resistance was of rejecting. Plus, our trends were so close that, like, from my opinion, even if this thing had have rejected, I would have been able to get out of the position pretty easily. So what it's looking like it's doing now is it's just more consolidation because it's all single candles. But if it closes up above here, it's going to create some lower time frame hold levels that will sort of exist within this candle here. And that means that that sort of 203 or lower area, which will also have this trend support running through it, will be some kind of bounce area that can try and test this trend again. So if we don't already hit it. Now the other option is that they just keep pumping this up into the trend, and that could be that false move that might happen today or Monday, and push back up into that trend and then start to come back down. And just like this candle, or sorry, the other way around, just like this candle here is not a full range, neither is this one. So if it runs into one of these daily trends, even if it comes all the way back up to this exterior trend up here at like around 211, or hits one of these levels, I also do not trust this. We've got this level here at 210, and that wick stopped at a few cents short. So there's also a little bit of dodgy something going on up there. So even if we push up and we hit this trend at about 206, or we travel all the way through the trend and everyone gets really, really bullish again, and then we hit these sort of 210 to 211 levels, we could still roll over from there, come all the way back down, and these trends are of higher strength for rejection than what this whole candle is. So whether that candle can actually hold the price, not necessarily. Maybe this older range trend that's running through here on the daily could hold the price. So yeah, we might get a pump off this, a rejection. We could still go lower. I've got my TP set around the 218 level, which is a 2-day long, I think it is, or it's a 5-day exchange long. And the position size is small enough now that if it goes deeper, I'll just add to it. Because we still have got these retest levels that we haven't hit. So we haven't even tested this break level at 196. That could happen. And we haven't retested some of these other levels. Actually, sorry, they're higher time frame levels, but there are some other levels down here to be retested. So let's have a look at the 2-day. So at this stage, 2-day is closing back up inside its trend. In actual fact, 2-day is potentially going to break the trend. Just get rid of that. So this might be a hard close and break and relocation of the 2-day trend. So it could shift from here over to here. And if we can do that without a wick on the top of this candle, then it could open on the other side of it. Unfortunately, it's probably going to open right on it and under resistance as the current price point is. But yeah, if it can push up and close without a wick, then we might get a little bit of a bounce off the top of it and a move up. Effectively, what we're trying to achieve, I've forgotten where that was. It was there. What we're trying to do is we've still got this long target in play up to 218.9, and this would be a good little stepping stone to get that push to happen. We have now got this break level here, which is 217.8 as well. So you might find we hit that break level and don't quite complete the long, and then it has a rejection and then has to recover and come back up. So if you are longing this fib long up to that 218.9 level, it may pay to, based on what's developed since, it may pay to be a little bit less greedy and just take a TP a little bit earlier. So let's have a look at the 3 days just in consolidation. It hasn't, it's on the wrong side of its support trend, and it hasn't rejected off the backside of it yet because it hasn't touched the backside of it. There is actually a short which is to play out on this, which brings us down to this 192.9 area. But whether that short can complete is pretty much dependent on whether it can get through this range trend, which is going to try to stop it, which is going to be around that 197 area. But if it can push through that range trend because BTC takes a dump or something, then this should come back to that 192. And if it wants to retest the backside of this trend, which it technically hasn't lost yet, then that's going to be up around that 209, 210 area. It's still just doing its thing. So 5-day is not going to relocate any trends. It hasn't lost any trends. It's going to introduce a new range break level, which is going to be up here at that 217 again. So that's now going to be a break level on a couple different time frames. So that's and it's still on the underside of its downtrend. So this would be quite a good way to get a rejection, which would be to try and push through these trends, retest the backside of that trend, hit the break level all at the same time, and then have a pullback. So that gives us that bit of confluence that we might get that pullback if we run into those areas. And also this one here, that was not a retest. So 185.296 is not the same as 184.827. So this candle here was the hard close of this range to the downside. So if we do get a pullback off any of this up here, it could go all the way down to do that retest there, or even this retest down here at 179 if we have one hell of a dump. And because this is not technically moving that interior support trend, it has the ability to do that, and because your other support trend is all the way down here. So yeah, be ready. We may be in for some fun. Okay. Weekly. So weekly is still underneath the trend at this stage. Although where it looks like it might close, this 204.89 level, this 204, 205 level is like a really, really important level across many time frames. So the more times we can close candles above that, the more likely it is that we will actually, start to get a solid bounce. But as it currently stands, this weekly trend that's running through here is sitting there about that 206 area, which would also be very much confluent with the daily trends. So we haven't used the new support trend on the weekly yet, which is sitting down around that 195. And pretty much everything on the weekly, from the looks of it, is all retested. We've retested, apart from maybe the range trend, at about 182. So yeah, I think the biggest dump on the weekly could be a rejection of these trends. The way these wicks have been going up above these trends and it just keeps sweeping that trend liquidity is a little bit bearish, because if it just keeps taking the trend liquidity, it's usually building positions. So these are all the trend traders, and they have all their stop losses and liquidation levels that they put above the weekly trend because they think it's safe. And then of course they go up and they take it and they build a big position by taking the liquidity up there. So at one point, what then happens is it hits the trend and says goodbye and it dives. So yeah, the retest could be the retest would initially be a bounce of this trend, but then if it lost that 195 area, then it would come down to those 180s, 170s on the weekly. Okay, the 10-day is creating something. So this one's a bit messy. So we're going to get a new interior trend running up like that. We're basically forming this area of huge support that is from 200 all the way down to the deepest retest. Here's the retest on this thing. It hasn't actually hard closed that 184, 185 level yet because we haven't really spent enough time up here, but there's so much support between 200 and 180 that whatever comes next is probably going to come from something down in there. Okay, but it's not really telling us too much, other than the moment this thing breaks its downtrend, its next target is 247. Now the 25-day. If anyone saw that tweet I sent out yesterday about, like, I feel sorry for candles sometimes. It must be a hard life getting stuck between two break levels. Like this is a 25-day version of that 1 hour chart I sent out yesterday. So we've got a break level here at 209.988, which we haven't hard closed over and ever. And we have another break level, which we are going to hard close over at 193.796. So this will be our first hard close of that 193.796 break level, and that's a really big thing because even the last couple of times we went to all-time high, the reason we dumped back so badly is because we never actually hard closed these levels. Like we were pushing through the resistance, inducing everybody and then destroying them, whereas this time it's more sustainable. Like we're actually hard closing these levels. Now we will most likely therefore get a retest of these levels, which is fine, but we're also breaking the downtrend. So in this case, the downtrend is going to shift up. Okay, and that gives us more confidence around that 209 area, because if we push into that trend, we'll be pushing into that topside break level again, and then we could get that retracement down to do the retest of the 193.7 level. So this is a good place to be. We're building sustainable structure. We're building really good support. It's way better than the last time that the price went up. And the targets in here are sort of like 243, 259, 264, like these sorts of levels. And ultimately, even if it was to dip back and properly retest this bottom side trend at 174, if you forget about all these interiors and you just look at the bigger picture exteriors, if it retests these bottom side trends, it's because it wants to bounce up to 300 and something, so forget all the noise in between and the things that slow it down and create the structure. It's really its aim in life is to secure this range, and that range is sort of like 174 to 300s now. So, and we're building that support, in these 190s so that it can keep on working its way up. So that's looking, that's looking good. It's not really anything else. Now, of course, it only takes them to sell this down by $2 before the end of the day, or $3 before the end of the day to ruin all that. So don't count your chickens before they've hatched. Okay, what's the 50-day showing us? 50-day is going to hard close above its downtrend. That's super bullish. The next horizontal level for this thing is 228 and then 259. So it's going to be above the break level of 188.786. So no reason why it couldn't come back to that 180s, 190s, and then even push up to that 228. But this is really bullish. So the trend is going to move to the upside. Oops, I've already done that. Let's put that on yesterday. Trend's going to move to the upside, and that gives us about a 217 rejection area. So that 217 area just keeps popping up, and I think it'd be a bit of an annoying joke if we were trying to get a 218 TP and it only went to 217. So I'll probably change my 5-day long TP to 217. Okay, and the 5-week, we're breaking trend on the 5-week. So it's going to give us some resistance around that 211 mark, and it's going to give us another target of 228. So yeah, it is actually quite bearish if that next candle pushes all the way to this 228. And that's just purely because if they do sweep the new trend, particularly such a high time frame trend, if they do a big sweep of it, it's often because they want to push lower. And a retest of the bottom side trend support here would be about that 180 mark. So and this could get real fast. So we've got 2 hours and 43 minutes, but on the 7-week, if it can close above 207 on the 7-week, then that would be an amazingly old and high time frame trend to be bouncing off. If it closes under it, same sort of thing. It could sweep it, although arguably it has already swept it based on that move there, but it could sweep it again, or it could reject off it and send us down to 188, or we will be hard closing 176.342 today. So I still think, in a nutshell, after looking at all of that, sorry it's been a bit of a long video, but looking at all of that, I still think our range is probably the 170s through to 300. I'm going to go out there and say 300 now because we've got too many trends that we're breaking today, and the other trends are up around 300. So and of course there will be bounces and pullbacks and all the other stuff that wipes out leverage traders along the way. But yeah, it looks like the range is actually expanding, and it's expanding more so to the upside. I'm not seeing anything in here that can get us back to those 150s anymore. So at this stage, the 150s actually look pretty safe if you entered down there. And yeah, hopefully that helps. Like, subscribe. I'm working on tidying up my charts and everything, and then I might find a way that I can share all of these links for all these charts and update them, and then you can see these updates in real time, or basically be able to open them up in your own trading view. So maybe we'll make it like a milestone thing if we get to like 1,000 subscribers or something. We'll see. And yeah, take care, and be ready for whatever comes next week. It should be a pretty good week as far as price movements, and hopefully we catch them in the right direction and make some money. Cheers. Bye.